to the League of Logic podcast, the podcast where you can learn how to think for yourself. Check out our website, leagueoflogic.com. You can learn more about who we are and what we are doing. We also have information and study resources that will cover our basic topics. We also have a contact page where you can leave us a comment or a question. Please do, because we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a rating and review whatever podcast platform you're using, and comment if you're watching the video. Either way, subscribe and follow, and please share with someone you think might get something out of it or might enjoy it. It would help us out a lot in getting the word out. Thank you for listening to the League of Logic podcast. Now get ready for a much needed conversation about truth.
I was advertising the podcast the other day. I looked at this guy. We'll say his name was Frank. I said, Frank, do you like it when people lie to you? He said, well, no. I said, neither do we. Here's a podcast. You should listen to it.
Sweet. That's great. I like it a lot.
Genius.
Plenty of lies to go around right now.
Man, oh, man. So, I'm just going to jump right into it. Just start throwing out stuff. There's so much stuff going on. I don't even know if we have a really topic. So we'll title the show once we're done. Just random thoughts by the League of Logic. Daily Mail, Sunday, February the 27th. CDC is refusing to publish data it has collected on booster effectiveness for 33 million Americans aged 18 to 49. Over fears it might show the vaccine is ineffective. FDA experts tell CDC to tell the truth. Side note, Daily Mail is a great website, dailymail.com. You never have to read the whole article because they have the longest titles ever. It's like a paragraph. You see what I'm saying? You see that? There it is. The whole thing's right there in the title.
Where's Fauci?
Fauci's gone. Yeah, he's hiding. 33 million. That seems like a substantial study to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most studies are like 20,000, 50,000. You do a study on 100,000 people, man, you're getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
33 million. You know why they are refusing to turn it over or to release it? They're afraid it may be misinterpreted as the boosters and the vaccine don't work.
Maybe they're scared that YouTube or somebody like that would say that's misinformation.
Yeah. It's so dumb, man. CDC. They also revised their mask recommendations again. Yep.
As long as it's a recommendation.
Yeah. Well, they're turning that down a little bit now. So you got to wonder why.
Is this an even year?
This is,
yes
an
what
even year.
What happens on even years?
You can divide it by 2.
Oh, yeah. Voting.
Voting. Oh, yeah. That's voting. What do you mean voting?
Oh, never mind. I was on a tangent there. I think that has nothing to do with
Yeah. So
disregard the man behind the curtain.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Speaking of voting year and that being a big deal, let's see if I can find this article because this was pretty cool too. This is on theblaze.com. The top pollster for the Democrats advises the party to declare COVID victory, declare the COVID crisis over because, quote, they risk paying dearly for it in the midterm elections. They have all kinds of quotes in here. Let's see if I can find one that I thought was great. Taking the win over COVID-19, making the rounds among the House and the Senate Democrat campaigns, consultants said last week. Here's what they're saying. This is a strategic thought, they say. Quote, after 2 years, that necessitated lockdowns, travel bans, school closure, mask mandates, and nearly 1 million deaths, nearly every American finally has the tools to protect themselves from the virus. What do we have different now that we didn't have then? A vaccine that doesn't work and natural immunity.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. That's what the memo says. And then it says, it's time for Democrats to take credit. Didn't I say this already? To take credit for ending the COVID crisis phase of the COVID war. Point to the important victories like vaccination distribution and providing economic stability to Americans. You feel like your economy is stable right now, by the way?
No.
And fully enter the rebuilding phase that comes after any war. Recognize that people are worn out.
I miss 2019.
I did too. It's gone. Yeah. Recognize that people are worn out and feeling real harm from the years-long restrictions and take their side. That's almost like the people didn't want any of that stuff if you have to take their side. Most Americans have personally moved on out of crisis mode. Twice as many voters now are more concerned about COVID's effect on the economy than about someone in their family or someone they know becoming infected with the Rona. This is the pollsters for the Democrats who was out there telling them what they need to start campaigning on because they're asking people. And so it's time for them to take the victory.
I have personally been ignoring the poll requests.
Yeah.
I'm just going to vote when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny sidebar. I was watching the YouTube this week, and they finally have a really funny advertisement for like some company or something like that. And it's this guy that travels through time and he sees all the greatest inventions.
I saw that one.
And he's there for like the wheel, and he's just like, that's stupid, man. Like, get that out of here. He's there for whenever the light is invented, the light bulb. And he's like, that's stupid. Does your wife know that you've been making this behind her back?
That was a pretty funny one.
It's all through history. He's just going to these things. And at the end, he's like, I'm never wrong. Trust me about this company. But one of my favorite ones was he's there when the Declaration of Independence is being signed. And they're like, yes, everyone will vote. There will not be a king. And he's like, no king. Everyone gets to vote, even the stupid ones. And they're like, yes, even the stupid ones.
I saw that.
And he's like, no. He's like trying to take it. I was like, that's great, man. That's a good commercial. I watched the whole thing. I didn't skip the ad. Did not skip the ad.
I think that was this. Was that the guy? I think I saw that.
Oh, man.
That was pretty funny.
Anyways, continue on. Sorry.
Oh, man. I get it. Even the dumb ones can vote. We just have to convince the dumb ones what's the right way to vote.
Oh, man.
That's why we are where we are now, because the dumb ones voted. All right, the other thing that I found, you mentioned where was Fauci. Fauci is probably going to Ukraine. It's safer for him there. That's a terrible joke. I know it's a sensitive subject, but that's funny right there. I don't care who you are. Again, Daily Mail, longest titles in the world. You ready? More evidence COVID was tinkered with in a lab? ? Now scientists find virus contains tiny chunks of DNA that match the sequence patented by Moderna 3 years before the pandemic began.
Uh-oh.
All right, so in
how's that happen?
In Johnston County terms, what that means is 3 years before we had a Rona, Moderna filed a patent on a sequence, a DNA sequence that is not natural. It's one that they created, one that they made. They claimed it was under the guise of cancer research. Okay, so they patented it, and now you have this these group of virologists and scientists that are studying the coronavirus to try to learn more about it. And all of a sudden, what pops up is this exact sequence that Moderna had a patent on 3 years before it showed up.
Out of the virus.
Yeah, it came out of the virus. So there was a lady who actually asked the guy from Moderna the question, the CEO or whoever the big guy in charge. I forgot the video for it. It doesn't take long. I just want you to listen to him like dance. She asked a great question, though. Here we go.
Check this out.
Scientists find the virus contains a tiny chunk of DNA that matches sequence patented by Moderna 3 years before the pandemic began. Your reaction, Stefan. What can you tell us?
So my scientists are looking into those data to see how accurate they are or not. As I've said before, the hypothesis of an escape from a lab by an accident is possible. Human makes mistakes. So is it possible that the Wuhan lab in China was working on viruses enhancement or gene modification? And then there was an accident where somebody was infected in the lab and then infected their families and friends. It is possible. On the claim you just mentioned, the scientists are analyzing to know if it's real or not.
Yeah. I mean, I was struck by the line, it matched a genetic sequence patented by Moderna for cancer research purposes, Stefan.
Yeah, and that's the type of things that the team is looking at very carefully to know is it real or not.
Okay.
So it takes a bit of time to analyze all the genetic sequence.
Okay.
Maria Bartholomew, ain't that her name?
Yeah. So they're taking the time to study to see if this evidence is real or not. That's just funny to me. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing he said, it is very possible that this could have come from the Wuhan lab where they were doing research on a virus and genetic modifications and accidentally infected somebody. Genetic modifications on a virus is gain-of-function research. And this is what Fauci has been denying the whole time. There was no gain-of-function research. The Rand Paul over and over again has shown him where he has been funding gain-of-function research and what gain-of-function research. You won't see Fauci much more.
Mm. Hopefully he's seeing behind bars.
Yeah, he needs to be.
I always think it's crazy how, like, whenever an American messes up, like, does something bad, they get a ticket and they go to jail or something like that. But then whenever you have these big companies or big people like Fauci or Moderna, you never really hear anything. There's no accountability for the higher-ups, for the elites.
Well, you said it there, the elites. They're in control.
When this was a pandemic to start with and the government was in on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And just for our North Carolina people, because this is where we are, it's a good thing that coming up soon, not this year, but in 2 years, there'll be an election for governor, and I don't think Roy Pooper is eligible to run again. But just so you know, his side, everybody, he made an announcement this week that it was time for schools to start unmasking the kids, which seemed like what everybody wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody wants. We're sick and tired of it. Quit making it a mandate. Make it optional. It should have always been optional.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes a public statement on his COVID update that, yep, it is time for us to get past it, and we make masks in schools optional. So the Senate and the House passed resolutions that said it would be illegal for the schools to mandate a mask, and they sent it to his desk, and he vetoed it.
Mm-hmm.
And his reason was, well, they're already starting to do that anyway. But what he didn't do was make it so that they could never force it again.
Because he likes the power.
He likes the power.
Or seeming like he's got the power.
Yeah. I got the power. Remember that song?
He's got...
Well, he's keeping the power there for somebody else. Because if he can't run next time, he's making sure the next guy that gets in will be allowed to do that.
So the legal law has the power, but when a mandate comes along that's just, you need to do this, he's only got as much power as people will listen to it.
Pretty much. This is the dangers of the executive orders and the declarations of an emergency and all that thing. And so they've tried over and over again to fix that, to make an emergency powers more temporary, because we have nothing right now that limits the amount of time that they could be in for. And, while he writes these emergency orders, he will put like on this date, we're going to do these things and it's going to last until such and such date. But when that date comes, when it's supposed to expire, nothing prevents him from just renewing it In fact, right now, he still has emergency powers. Although there's not a lot of executive orders that have not expired, he still has not released it.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. There was a man that released his emergency powers, though. Trudeau. Which was a pretty interesting thing. You saw what he did to the truckers right this week, right?
I was going to ask about that. I hadn't heard the latest.
So he invoked the Emergencies Act for Canada. The Emergencies Act gave the government the ability to do several things to anybody that was involved with it. One of those things was to freeze their bank accounts.
Okay, I actually did hear about that.
Okay. And so you have these guys, people who are not even truckers, but had been supporting it. If you gave money to help the truckers,
Even $50.
10, it didn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The government was forcing these crowdfunding sites and these banks and these institutions to release the names and information of all the people who had donated or contributed to the trucker convoy. And they started freezing their bank accounts. All right. Which is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, they were able to bring in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, to trample over old ladies and things like that. And then the next thing they were able to do was confiscate their trucks, and they're still talking about selling off these guys' trucks and keeping the money. They're able to now, what they also were doing where they were the truck companies. If you had an employee who was a trucker who you gave permission to use one of your trucks to take downtown, they're going to take away your license.
And insurance.
Insurance companies, all the people the insurance company, they were going to cancel your insurance. There were so many things that they were able to do now to just basically ruin the lives of the people that were standing against the government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And even after the truckers were removed, because they're gone now, I mean, they physically were removed and their trucks physically removed. Trudeau was not releasing his emergency act, and they vowed, the new police chief, which we played last week, to continue the investigation to get as many people in trouble, basically, to freeze their financials, right? So that they, just as a punishment for being involved with this. Never mind that the protest was actually over. With Trudeau, one day it was all full steam ahead. We're still in emergency crisis. And the next day it was, it's no longer an emergency. So he revokes this Emergencies Act. And it was pretty interesting, the different reasons why. I mean, I think you heard of one reason, didn't you, David?
Yeah, it goes back to the Great Reset. They were worried if people realized that their banks could be frozen, that they'd never go along with, digital currency. But I'm not convinced of that.
So the other thing that happened was, this was I think the biggest thing. Maybe it's hard to tell, really. You really hard to know what they're thinking in their brain, but they actually really did begin to freeze people's accounts. And when that happened, the conservative side of the world, like the Sean Hannity's and the Dan Bongino's and the Mark Levin and all those guys, they all started screaming the same thing. Pull your money out of Canada. Get your money out of the Canadian banks. Get your money out of all the big national banks. And the people did.
I think that had a lot to do with
And
it.
the banks have a tremendous lobbying power in politics. And when you have all these Canadian banks, because they weren't fast enough getting the people's information to start freezing the accounts before the people showed up, started pulling their money out, closing the account. Next thing you know, you got a bank that's supposed to have a ton of money, and now all of a sudden, what if 1 million people pulled their money out of the bank? The banks are going to feel it. I mean, that's how the banks work. They use our money. The banks don't have no stinking money.
You have to
They
think
go
about
down.
all the trade that you have.
Yep.
United States has with Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people were
And so when they
getting
started
cash.
pulling out all their money, then all of a sudden the bankers showed up and said, "Hey, Trudeau, it's about time you stop this nonsense, man, because we ain't got no capital."
That's what I think the truth is.
Anyway, Our trucker convoy is doing pretty good. The last I heard, it was
15 miles long now.
yeah. If one report came out in the morning, and it was like it's 5 miles, and it wasn't like 3 hours later, somebody had taken a picture and posted underneath it. Nope, it's 8. I mean, it was growing. Yeah, I think that in one day, or just 4 hours, I think it was, they had raised $850,000.
When are they supposed to get there?
Oh, they're supposed to get there coincidentally on the same date that Biden is supposed to give the State of the Union address.
March 1st.
This week.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't like to listen to Biden, but I'm almost like, I can't wait to listen to the State of the Union address.
And
The whole thing is going to have to be a lie. What's he going to, the State of the Union is poor. No, he ain't going to say the State of the Union is strong.
we got our State of the Union last night, I believe.
Yeah, Trump did. The State of the Union is strong because Vladimir Putin thinks we're a joke, and he's threatened us with nuclear destruction. And we just sort of said, okay.
I think the world's going to find out that Russia's not as powerful as what they've always been hyped up to be. They do have a lot of nuclear weapons, but they're having a hard time with Ukraine.
Man, so in the Ukraine, what's happening is fun. It's not fun. It's a terrible word to use.
Shame on you.
It is. I'm sorry. I like it though. I'm like I can't go to Ukraine. Can you go to Ukraine?
Mm-mm.
All I can do here is like watching the basketball game. You're cheering for your team, and I'm pulling for the Ukrainians. And so there's I can't remember the website, but it'll give you like the size of all the nations and countries' military forces. And so the Soviet Union has about 850,000 active military guys, right? The Ukraine only has 200,000. I mean, like 4 times as more guys. Well, obviously, the Russia people don't have all 850,000 going into Ukraine. I mean, they have little battle stations spread out just like we do. And so I don't know how many they sent into Ukraine, but Ukraine being a small little bitty place, they don't have a lot of outside battle stations. So most of their guys are pretty much there. So I don't know if it's all 200,000, but it's close. All right, so they start going into Kiev or Kiev or however, I don't know how you want to say it. There's a bunch of different ways of saying it. They start going in. The population of that city just so happens to be about 4 million, right? And so the president declared martial law, and the government started arming any citizens that wanted to fight.
Grannies and all.
Yep, handing them out.
Just handing out weapons. And so you've got, not only do you have, obviously you've got the retired veterans who are already used to doing things like this, and you've got the retired law enforcement, and you've got hunters, and you've got, guys that are familiar with weapons, but you also got dads who's like, hey, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and you're coming in here and you're blowing up our apartment building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just say, for the sake of numbers, that you didn't get, obviously there's 4 million people. You're not going to get 2 million. You're not even going to get 1 million. Let's just say you got 500,000, maybe 200,000. Now you're getting almost the same size as what the number of guys that they're bringing in. Now the artillery that Russia's bringing in is a little more powerful, but it's turned into a ground game.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got a dude looks like us just dressed in street clothes, and here come the Russians. And next thing you know, he pops out from behind the hay bale and pops a couple caps into dudes, and pap, they're having trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So I heard somebody talking about this. I think it might have been Ben Shapiro, but he was talking about, they've got nukes, but, they're after resources is probably the game they're playing. You ruin all your resources if you use nukes. So it has to be a ground game in order to do that. So it forces it to become like that. And that was the problem in World War II with invading America, because everybody already had guns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ukraine's not as far as anti-plane, anti-tank stuff. They're not slacking either.
Mm-mm.
Every president's given Ukraine a lot of weaponry, I think, except for Obama. Trump handed a lot over to him. You remember the big ordeal about that, anyhow. So they're not lacking on that part, and I think they've hit a lot of Russia's tanks and a lot of their planes, taking down a lot of their planes, jets.
So one of the things I've had to limit myself on the amount that I have watched about Ukraine because it makes me angry. The reason why it makes me angry is because I learned that in 1994, under our great leader Bill Clinton, I smoked, but I didn't inhale. You know, that guy. They convinced Ukraine, him and I think Germany, convinced Ukraine to denuclearize. You don't need them. And they did it with the promise that if you ever need protecting, we are here for you.
And that Russia will never invade.
And that Russia will never invade.
But they'd never allowed them to come into NATO.
And I don't even know that matters. So I think that's what Vladimir Putin wanted. He wanted to make sure that Ukraine was never, ever, ever, ever eligible to join NATO. In fact, that's what he asked for. And they said, well, we're not putting that out there. And so he was left with no choice but to invade. I don't know that he really wanted to, but he had no other choice because then he would have appeared like Joe Biden, like a little weak pansy. That's what we got as a leader, by the way. We got a pansy as a leader. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a contrast here. When Trump was president, did Russia move on any nation?
Nope.
None. You know why?
Trump ain't a pansy.
Yeah, he was not a pansy. So there's two ways that you can win, if you will, a psychological warfare to avoid war. One, you got to be like the biggest, baddest dude in the room. I mean, people look at you like, "Whoa, I don't think I'm gonna mess with that guy." Mm-hmm. Right? You're so powerful that nobody even dares to mess with you. I knew guys like that. They might have been a sissy, but he just is so intimidating. You're like, I'm okay with that dude. You're good. That's one way. The other way is, you remember the little squirrely dude in school that you never knew what he was going to do next? I mean, he was just a psychotic dude. I mean, next thing you know, he's like, like Tasmanian devil. You're like, well, I could probably win, but he's going to scratch me up pretty bad. You know, I don't know if I want to mess with him either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's two ways. Unpredictability. Like, that guy's crazy or super, super strong. Well, Trump was trying to do both. He made our military really, 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 really strong. And then I read a New York Post article this week, too, that was awesome. And so Trump had a meeting. He was meeting with the Vladimir Putin dude. And during this meeting, this is the quote it says, "If you move against Ukraine while I'm president," Trump said to have told the Russian leader, "I will hit Moscow." All right?
Dang.
And then Putin replies back, scoffingly. He's like, "No way," which Trump said, "All those beautiful golden turrets will be blown up." That's what he told Putin, supposedly. I wasn't there. I don't know if this is real or not, but this is what this article is saying. It's recounting this meeting that Putin and him have. Now, Putin might have thought, that dude's crazy.
I got to interrupt.
Yeah.
Because you didn't see the CPAC, his speech at the CPAC last night, but he was talking about the leader of the Taliban. He gave some insight of it. He said the leader asked him, "Why did you send me a picture of my house?"
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I know
Trump said I was being diplomatic.
That's perfect. Yeah.
So that gives you an insight of what Trump's really like.
Yeah. And this is why there was no war under Trump, right? Because not only did he make us the biggest, baddest person on the planet, but he also had that unpredictability. Now, Vladimir Putin, he may have thought, I don't know if this guy's serious or not, but I'm not going to find out. Okay.
Exactly.
There's also part of this article, which I thought was just as hilarious, even more. China. Xi. Ain't that his name? Xi?
Z, yeah.
Z, whatever you call him. So supposedly during this meeting with Z, they've had a nice dinner. And let's try, how many was it? Here it is. So a similar story involves Chinese President Xi Jinping. It was during his visit to Mar-a-Lago in 2017 when Trump famously interrupted their chocolate cake dessert to declare that he had just ordered the U.S. military to fire 59 Tomahawk missiles at the Syrian air base after the Syrian government used chemical weapons against the rebels and civilians. That's true. We know that happened, right? Mm-hmm. During the same visit, Trump reportedly told Xi that any military move against Taiwan would be met with an attack on Beijing. Xi, like Putin, is said to have just to have been stunned. Though it is possible that neither man believed Trump was serious, while it is also possible that both accounts are exaggerated, it is a fact that neither man made a move while Trump was the president. If you move on the Taiwanians, I am going to blow up Beijing. If you move on Ukraine, I'm going to blow up Moscow.
So the evidence shows that Trump did a better job at keeping the peace worldwide.
Absolutely. It was peace through power, peace through strength.
Yep.
Man. So I really enjoy playing board games. And a lot of people that know me know that. One board game that I love is Axis and Allies. And it's basically you're recreating World War I or World War II. And each person picks a side. Sometimes you can have up to 5 players to control the different countries. But whenever I hear about Trump saying, I'm going to hit Moscow, on this board game, you have a map, and you can see where everybody's territory is, all their small cities, all their big cities, and you know what it takes to hit that place, and if you might win it or you might not. And just whenever I hear him say, I'm going to hit, and it could be exaggerated, as we said, we don't know, but to say I'm going to hit Moscow or I'm going to hit Beijing, that takes a lot. That's not saying, oh, I'm just going to get this little skirmish city on the outside. That's like, I'm coming for everything.
Yeah.
I want it all.
Yeah.
That's just like, man, that's so bold. Woo.
Shooting for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you learn in that, I don't know that you ever want to be the one who is reacting in a fight, right? That puts you kind of at a disadvantage already to be the reactor. The aggressor is usually the one who's 9 times out of 10 is going to be the one who's going to win, right? The one who is making the move first.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you've got Joe Biden doing right now is just reacting. And he's reacting pitifully. It's almost like he's covering his head up.
I wonder why.
Yeah. When Trump went into office, he actually took a trip to all the world powers and had a conversation with everybody. This, you know, this is where I stand, or whatever it was, you know.
I shared a video from that, what was her name? Mallory something or other, who wrote the book. Hold on, let's see if I can find it.
Why are you looking for that? I feel sorry for the people of Ukraine, and I support them and all that stuff, but we need not forget that Ukraine is like the laundromat for corruption.
Yeah.
It comes to Washington. Everybody's got their hands in it in Ukraine. Makes me wonder exactly what Putin's after. Is it to bring back the old Soviet Union and to have that land, or is he after something else?
Yeah. Her name was Molly Hemingway. She wrote that, she wrote a book. She shared a video of what it was like whenever Trump was talking with the leaders of NATO. Wonder if it'd play.
I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries. And then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia, where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States, in actual numbers, is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. You know, we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody. and yet we're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it because I don't think they understood it or they just didn't want to get involved. But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something because we're not going to put up with it. We can't put up with it. And
what I can appreciate about that is, Trump was willing to have the hard conversations and address the difficult problems for the sake of the people and for the country.
Absolutely. That is absolutely
And
right.
I can respect that.
And he caught a lot of slack for saying that Germany was going to be dependent upon Russia. And it came true.
It's absolutely true.
And then why did Biden do the same thing to us? Turns around, kills the Keystone Pipeline, and now dependent
upon Russia.
So what is he going to really do to Russia? If he does too much, we're not going to have any oil.
Nothing. And that's the thing. So the only way that if we really wanted to defeat Russia, it wouldn't take but about 2 months, and you wouldn't have to fire a single shot. There's this thing that's called SWIFT. It's basically the world's money exchange system that countries use as they start to pay money back and forth between countries. It runs through this thing called SWIFT, like a bank, I guess. First thing, cut Russia out. So, you're no longer able to use this money thing here. But they won't do that because Russia owes Europe money and Europe wants their money first. So I don't know that, but it'd be fine. Do you think that Europe's going to get their money if Russia falls? Their economy is already tanked right now. I mean, it is tanked. Their people don't want this. The other way to do it is you become energy independent again to the point, we are floating on natural gas right now. We could supply the world. We've got plenty.
Russia's floating in money right now with oil again.
But if you can make the world not dependent upon Russia, that is the only economic thing they've got. Ice. They got a lot of ice. You know what I'm saying? And so you could get rid of them really quickly. Yeah. Anyway.
They got uranium one.
They do got uranium.
Hillary sold 20% of our.
The other article that I found that drove me absolutely insane. So you got Trump. That's what you see in a real leader. He cares about your people. Yeah, ice would be nice in the summer, wouldn't it?
I just see like a guy coming to the table. We have ice. You're like, he does have ice.
What do you have that we don't have? Well,
we have a big
lots of ice.
We have a big party coming up. We need a lot of ice. Perfect.
Yeah. We have sculptors as well. Oh man.
That's so funny.
The other thing you have is you got the DOJ. We were gathering information on Russia. This is how stupid Joe Biden is. And we were giving it
to China. And China's going, here you go, Russia.
And China was turning around and handing every bit of our intelligence to Russia. You just want to look at the whole administration, Peppermint Patty, Joe Biden, and just be like, hey, you know what? Just don't talk anymore. Just be quiet. I mean, that's how it started to start with, right? Joe Biden stands up in front of the whole world and says, yeah, if Russia does a minor incursion, we probably won't do anything. We'll just have to sit around and argue what measures to take. As long as it's not a full-blown invasion, we probably won't do anything. What? You don't say that.
So Putin's sitting there, he's like, okay, United States is giving us all this money again.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I invade Ukraine, they're not going to do anything.
So you've got we gather information about Russia, we give it to China. China turns around, and because they are not our friend, they hand it over to Russia, which makes you believe that we should probably not be trusting China.
Mm-hmm.
Can we agree with that? Politico, which is not a conservative place. Politico. DOJ shuts down China-focused anti-espionage program. What the heck, man?
You can't make it up.
You can't make it up.
So I'm just thinking, like, I'm sitting here looking at your computer and I don't understand what you just said. And so I'm not sure if the listeners may understand what you just said. Like, definitely you made a point because you hit the table.
Yeah.
But,
Okay,
like, what is the DOJ shuts down China, focus? What does that mean?
So basically, we are no longer going to be trying to gather information on China to make sure they're not trying to kill us all.
We're not doing
We're
it.
going to quit that.
Oh,
But
okay.
we trust them so much.
But we'll give it out all we want on TikTok, though.
Yeah.
Give it out freely on
Gotcha.
TikTok.
Okay.
Right after they stabbed him in the back, they're going to cut it down.
I feel like it's the same rule that we all understood on the playground, in school.
Mm-hmm.
Watch out for numero uno. And who's numero uno? That's me. Nobody else is going to treat you as good as you. It's the same with money. Nobody's going to spend your money as good as you do. And it's just, I was about to go somewhere really beautiful with that, but I completely forgot it. So
You're not looking out for number one, that's for sure.
China's going to look out for China. Russia's going to look out for Russia.
Yep.
So it's stupid if you're an American and says, oh, yeah, France is going to watch out for us.
China's got our back. We don't need to worry about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It was a counter. So if you don't think that China has intelligence people over here in America scoping us out, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't think Russia or any other country, well, everybody does. And so what we all do is we all just gather information about each other just to make sure that we don't get caught off guard. And DOJ under Biden says, we don't have to worry about that. We're good. All right, ready for comic relief?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Obviously, the war in Ukraine is a bad thing, and nobody knows really what to do about it. And we all feel really upset, and we wish we could do more. And it's ruining lots and lots of people's lives, particularly those people in the Ukrainians, right? The Ukrainians. It's also ruining Joy Behard's life.
I heard this.
She can't go on vacation.
Oh, I heard that.
Are you ready? Here we go. Let's see. It's not working. Go figure.
I hope it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
This is
remember hearing
hilarious.
that. It was super funny.
It's a terrible thing.
Just thinking about it. It's so funny.
Did you also hear?
Oh, go ahead. You say it.
I was going to say, did you also hear about the I don't even know her name, the girl that wrote a poem for Putin because
No, I don't.
No, I didn't hear that.
play that.
That was so dumb,
Well, I'm
man.
scared of what's going to happen in Western Europe, too.
Yeah.
You plan a trip, you want to go there. I want to go to Italy for 4 years. I haven't been able to make it because of the pandemic. And now this, it's like, what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and this guy, he's a singular sensation in a certain way, you know what I mean? I don't know that he has that much support in his country,
Yeah,
like you
I
say. And maybe that has to be addressed because we've seen this movie before.
They don't think that the president of Ukraine has support. This dude is standing out there with a bulletproof vest on and an AR, man. He's fighting for the... Where's Joe Biden?
I don't need a ride. I need guns.
Yeah.
I need ammo.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but, man, it's a terrible shame. She's been wanting to go over there for so long, but the
And I think she said it like right after someone was like, yeah, 500,000 lives might be lost.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
It's a scary
and what
thing.
about vacation?
Yeah. Yeah. Joy Behard, man.
She's funny.
Did you find your poem?
Yeah,
It's a long one.
Oh, it is it? We could
I
post it.
didn't realize it was so long, but yeah.
You know she's a failed actress anyhow, right?
What's her name?
Well, I didn't even know who she was.
Yeah.
What's her name? That says it all.
Annalyn McCord
Okay.
recites gives a poem to Putin, like basically saying
If I was your mother-
if she was his mother, he wouldn't be so bad. She would have loved him enough that he wouldn't be this bad man attacking Ukraine.
So stupid. I remember on Thursday driving to work, I was hearing about some girl who got on Tinder and it pinged people that were close to her, and she was a Ukrainian woman, and it started pinging Russian soldiers because they were like within a 50-mile radius. She's seeing all the pictures of like these soldiers like posing with their guns and stuff like that. And she's like, I would never sleep with the enemy.
In the
It's
world,
just-
man.
It's super funny how technology is kind of, well, even our culture is kind of just intermingling with, I mean, you're at war and you're on your Tinder. Oh my goodness, I can't believe Tinder. Oh, hurts my feet.
It's so pathetic, man.
You should have at least put like a filter on there or something like that.
Yeah.
There's probably some Russians and Ukrainians on social media like trash talking each other on
Yeah, a couple of trolls.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I'm gonna blow up your mom's house. Oh yeah, I'm gonna shoot you when you get here. You better have a rated 5 military bulletproof vest on. I don't know what I just said, but
Nobody else does either.
It sounded like
good.
something you would find online. It sounded like
It did sound like something you would hear online.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just true.
But they should have filters to where like don't bring up people that we're at war with. You know.
Yeah.
I think the truth of it though is the exact opposite as far as civilians go. 'Cause there's a lot of Russians that are protesting this right now.
The Russian people don't want it. I saw a video that the Russian police were moving in and arresting people, just like in Canada, for people who are protesting this invasion.
I think there's a lot of Ukrainians and Russians that are tight.
They didn't want it to
They
happen.
don't want any of this stuff.
The other thing that's happening that they don't like is that, I mean, literally, if I don't have it up here, I'll find it. I'll put it up. They have their Russian stock market. I mean, it crashed tremendously whenever this took place. And so, I mean, just like if ours were to crash, I mean, that's people's retirement plans. You know what I mean? It's like poof, gone. And just, I mean, like in a day, you didn't even have time to even get it out. I mean, it was like instant, boom, gone.
Mhm.
I don't know. Well, anything else happening in the world you feel like you need to talk about?
No. No.
All right.
Yeah, I think we do need to say Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We got to remember to take our minds back to realize, like we talked in a couple of episodes before, you know, there is a spiritual battle going on. We're seeing the effects of it. And the way we fight that spiritual battle is in the spiritual. We've got to seek God over these things and pray, humble ourselves. That's the way we address these most effectively. And we need to pray more. I think we all need to pray more. I know I do.
Absolutely. I did have one more thing that's not really on the topic of Ukraine, but it sort of falls into this whole what's happening in the world to the Great Reset and everything else. So I believe that the next attack or push or whatever you want to call it for the Great Reset is going to come in the professional world. We saw it just a little bit happen with Trudeau with his Emergency Act, where he started messing with the livelihoods financially, but also with the licenses. Okay. I just got an email this weekend. I screenshotted it. I put it up here for you. This is from the North Carolina Association of Realtors, and this is what they're asking us to do now. It's the diversity movement.
Could you read it just in case it's too
Yep.
small?
It says, thank you to everyone who has filled out our diversity, equity, and inclusion survey. For those who haven't yet had a chance to respond, there is still time. Please complete the survey no later than February 28th, 2022. Remember that your participation is valuable and you will help shape the recommendation to enhance our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.
And they did not give you a no thanks button.
They didn't give me a no thanks button. I didn't take the survey, by the way. I'm not going to be included in such stuff. But this is where it's coming to next. So the Bar Association, the lawyers, they are making a requirement now that law schools teach a version of CRT, or critical race theory. And so you have all these professional fields that require an association and a license to be able to do any type of business. National Association of Realtors, North Carolina Association of Realtors, the bar, doctors, all of these associations and and professional fields that require licenses are going to start implementing this ESG score, critical race theory, diversity, and they're going to control your license.
That was one thing Biden did on day one. Trump had an executive order against critical race theory, and
he took it away.
And this stuff, first thing he did, one of the very first things he did.
So that reminds me, as of February 7th, the Department of Transportation is requiring that all new CDL drivers are required to go through official training, which is at least 6 weeks full-time, a few months if you do it on the weekends. But you have to go through a training like that through a licensed school in order to get your truck driver's license. You can't just do on-the-job training anymore. So, and, I work with construction and deal with trucks, and
right.
That's going to make it a lot more difficult in the coming days to get drivers for, any sort of transportation job that you've got going on. It's already making it difficult for even where I work, hiring.
Because you can't train on the job.
Yeah. You have to put them through school now.
I wonder what's involved in those classes.
Take a guess.
CRT. Yeah. Now you realize.
But yeah, that's a squeeze on the economy.
It is. The supply line. Yep.
Yeah, the supply line.
Yeah. They're trying everywhere. That's what I'm talking about, man. They're in a last ditch effort. We can't get to November 2022 fast enough. And look, and even when that happens, there's going to be 2 more months of
screaming
and hollering and get her all done as fast as we can before we lose every bit of grip we got.
Fighting for their lives. Yeah.
And so the most important thing that we've got is you don't stop, right? Stand up for what is right. Be on the right side of this. Vote for the right people. We got to get the ones that are pushovers out. These rhinos. I mean, just because you got a Republican beside your name don't mean that you're on our team, by the way. Mm-hmm. That Tulsi Gabbard girl who's a Democrat is more on our team than some of the Republicans are. She's all about a people's republic, right? Of the people. And she said she's a Democrat. I like her. I know that sounds crazy, but she's awesome.
Well, she's got some sideways views, though.
She's got some sideways views, but they all do. But I'm just saying, as far as it comes to, if we had Democrats like that on one side of the aisle, we could work things.
Yeah, old Democrats.
Yep. We could work things out the way they were supposed to be done. So we got to stand firm, man.
I also would say that, there's been a lot of confidence lost in the voting system over the past couple of years. But I think that's the only way we've got to control who's in leadership. We've got to vote. It's got to be there. It's getting addressed.
That's coming.
Yeah. It's being addressed, the issues of the voting system. We just got to vote.
It is no excuse to not vote, to say, well, it's rigged and we're not going to win anyway.
Yeah. That's giving up.
That just makes it not even possible for it. I mean, that's being on the wrong side.
Yeah.
The videos are getting ready to be dropped on that.
Yeah.
The 2,000 Mules.
I'm ready for that movie, man.
Yeah.
The documentary by Dinesh D'Souza, 2,000 Mules.
Yep.
You got some more notes, man? You ready?
Yeah, I'm just writing one down. I don't know where to place it, though.
Right now seems like as good a time as any.
Here's your open random slot.
Yeah.
Well, just something to think about. At our church, our pastor, he gave an awesome sermon, but he said one thing that kind of stuck out to me. And he said, what if it's God's will that you're going to suffer? And, that's a really sobering thought because nobody really likes to suffer. I don't think Job was really, woohoo, I just lost all my kids and now I've got flesh boils all over me. I mean, and a lot of times we see it in our prayer requests that we have, Lord, heal this person from cancer, or Lord, give me a completely different job because I don't like this one. And, we actually have the boldness to pray, that God would alter his will to our specific preferences. But just that word or that phrase that our pastor gave, what if it's God's will that you suffer? That's what if the voting thing never gets worked out? God's still a good God. He's still going to take care of you. He's still got a plan. Maybe it's just God's will that you suffer.
Yep. That is an important point, is that outcome is not up to us. It is up to us to stand on truth constantly, no matter what the outcome is, whether it's easy or hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think on the same lines as that, though, it's we need to, trust and believe that God's in control, but also at the same stance, we got to stand and continue to do what we know is right and not give up.
Mm-hmm.
You still have your responsibilities.
Yes, you still have your responsibilities, right?
Because God's not about lying and cheating, and that's what the election integrity.
That's what it was all about. Bunch of lying cheaters.
Mm-hmm.
Rigged.
Thank you for listening to the League of Logic podcast. If anything we have said has made you think or made you mad, please check it out for yourself. We want you to look for and know the truth. Send us a comment or question on our website. We'd love to hear from you. Also, leave us a rating and review. It would help us out a lot in promoting what we were doing. And subscribe to the channel. That's a big one. Please subscribe. Also, we got a store in the website. You can access it through the website. Got a lot of great t-shirts, hoodies, things like that. Check it out. Thank you for listening to the League of Logic podcast, and we look forward to you tuning in on the next episode.